What's up guys, Brandon here from Gearist. And today we're going to be taking a look at a shoe that really impressed us with its first version, and that is the New Balance Fresh Foam Zante number 2. If you recall, in 2015, New Balance rolled out the second generation of their Fresh Foam shoes, which included the New Balance Fresh Foam Boracay, or Boracay, depending on if you're some guy who wants to correct us in the comments on YouTube. Thanks for that, by the way. But it also included one of our favorite and tied for shoe of the year last year, the Fresh Foam Zante. This guy right here, which is version number 1. This is a shoe that was lightweight and responsive, really ready to rip off some miles. So how could such a great shoe have changed? Could it evolved for the better? Why don't we find out? First up, let's look at the outsole, which, if we hold up version 1 of the Zante right here, they pretty much appear identical. But upon closer inspection, you'll notice a couple differences. The first thing is that the thickness of the rubber this way is identical in both models. However, on this guy, these lug pattern, the lug pattern on the bottom of here, have been rearranged and in some cases elongated or made a little bit larger. You can see right under the forefoot there. Maybe it's kind of tough to see on a camera, but there has been a bit of a change, and we did in fact confirm this with New Balance. When we were confirming that with New Balance, it wasn't just that they said, yeah, they've changed and didn't explain why. These came off of actual graphs that showed wear patterns in different users across the board. So these have been used and spread out specifically to cater to that kind of wear pattern, whatever that is. These are the places that got the most traffic, and this is the new design that they came up with to cater to that. Additionally, on the bottom of the shoe, there kind of looks like an etched pattern. I'll hold it up. You may not be able to see it very well, but there's a little bit of an etched pattern in here. And what that etched pattern was, well, to me, it looked kind of like a topographical map of sorts, you know, showing benchmarks and different elevation gains. This is actually a pressure map, again, based on some of the data that they were able to glean from the first generation of the Zante. So far as the differences from number 1 to number 2 in terms of wear for myself, I didn't really notice any difference. The traction, number 1, is very good still. The flexibility remains really solid and definitely one of the high points of this shoe. In terms of the durability, I had no problems. Now, this has about 40 miles on it, which is pretty typical for our wear testing of shoes. And the wear up to that point, again, a little bit right here in the lateral midfoot, is pretty much the same as we saw in version 1 at that same spot. One of the things that I would caution you is that if you're looking to wear this shoe for all the training and the racing of a marathon, let's just say, you may want to be able to have another pair, or at least be prepared to buy another pair if this wears through, though we, with, again, 40 miles in this shoe, haven't seen that happen yet. Moving into the midsole of this shoe right here, and this is the first place where we see a real significant change, at least that you're not going to be able to look at it and see it, but it's somewhat of a significant change from version 1 of that shoe. In this version 1 right here, there was a bit of a midfoot hump or bump right in here, right under the arch. I didn't necessarily have a problem with that, but some people did, and they felt like it was really pushing into their arch quite a bit because, without getting into it, too much in the way of an arch support isn't supportive at all and can in fact mess up your foot. It does appear though that that midsole hump or bump in this guy has really been flattened out, and so you have a much more flat and just kind of even feel from the front to the back, which aids in transition and that quick snap forward in the shoe. Another somewhat more subtle change in this is the different arrangement of the convex and concave hexagons that appear on the midsole. That's kind of hard once again to see in the camera, but we discussed in the version number 1 of the Zante as well as the Fresh Foam Boracay. Actually, we discussed it first in the 1080 or the 980, the first version of the Boracay, where we talked about they were trying to cater different types of firmness and how the shoe would act in different ways by putting either convex or concave hexagons in certain places. The big change in this, which isn't a big change at all, is that everything is pretty much the same, although right here on the medial forefoot, just from the first metatarsal, the ball of the foot forward, on version 1 these are concave, on this version 2 they are convex. So it doesn't really make a difference for me. I didn't notice a huge change or anything in the way that it felt, but it's a little bit of a cosmetic thing, so we thought we'd point it out to you guys. Something worth pointing out about this, and I will touch on this more in the ride section, is that it is a bit more firm than version 1. Now, part of that is that you're going to feel a more even keel feel from front to back with that midfoot bump calm down. But it's not to say that it's super firm, because it's really not that much more firm, and it doesn't knock down the playful character of this shoe. But since there's so many people that adore the Zante, it's worth being aware that you may notice that it's just a little more firm underfoot, actually kind of coming a little bit more toward the feel of the Vazi Pace or something like that. But again, if it's like scale of 1 to 10, how much more firm it is. It's probably like a 1.5 or 2, so not a huge deal. And for the spec heads in the crown, it is a 6mm drop from the heel to the forefoot, just like the first version. Moving to the upper of this shoe, in version 1, there were kind of just some different types of mesh, one in the front half of the shoe and one in the rear half. In this version, they've gone with a much more engineered mesh. This is going to save a little bit of weight and actually prevent them from having to put quite as many supports in it because the mesh itself provides its own support. This also means that it's a more single piece construction. Internally, there's still that booty feel right up there. There's kind of a booty right around the forefoot here and still cradles the foot really nicely from the outside in. The support structure of this guy is quite a big change from version 1 with a lot of integrated structure with the mesh itself, but then also fully bonded overlays, not really any stitching. The only stitching that we ever see at all is right here at the back around the heel counter, and then these two little guys locking down the front lace eyelet up there. So no real stitching to speak of, and it's a much more sleek line, and again, it should save some weight. The heel counter in this guy has a much more external structure as opposed to the first version, but internally it actually seems as though it's more flexible. So if you're pushing from the outside, you're going to notice still that structure is there with a well-formed heel cup, but like this, you still have a lot of flexibility in that area. One thing that I was very happy about is the tongue and the collar remain perfect for me. No real changes there. There's a good amount of foam, not too much, not too little. It's just right. But something that some people will notice is the fact that there is no lace guide on this. That's right, no loop up here that's going to hold the tongue in place and prevent any medial or lateral tongue slide. What they have instead, and you can see right here, I'll kind of lift that up, is this little area right there. It's kind of like a raised pod that's got sort of a rubberized material on it, and what I have to assume is that raised pod is meant to grip on the backside of the laces. For me, I guess it worked. I don't really have that much tongue slide on most shoes anyway, but I did notice a little bit of tongue slide. Not a huge deal, just something to point out. It's a new little feature that I thought was kind of interesting. Something interesting that we found with this shoe relative to this shoe, so version 1 that I'm holding right here in my right hand is 8.7 ounces in a men's size 11. Now with that said, I've been talking about how there's with some weight loss and things like that with the upper, but this guy right here comes in again in a men's size 11 at 9.4 ounces. Some people have mentioned that this might be a change in the sock liner or something like that, but I will tell you that I've taken out both sock liners and weighed them side by side, and the sock liner in this weighs the exact same as version 1, so I'm not really sure where the weight comes from. Possibly it could be a change in the durometer of this midsole foam to a little bit more firm. The more firm it is, the more material in this, because it's more dense, you're gonna have a little bit more weight, but that is just me being hypothetical, so I'm really not sure. In any event, it's not enough to be a deal breaker for me, and I still really like the weight of this shoe. As for fit with version 1 of the Zante, I found that was definitely a highlight for me, and in number 2, it remains so. First, the sizing is right on. My men's size 11 fits exactly where a size 11 should. The heel with that more external structure, less internal structure, feels really, really great on the foot and is definitely very solid. Even when going around turns and asking for a little more agility from the shoe, you still feel nice and locked down regardless of the inherent flexibility in the heel counter back there. Moving into the midfoot, that midfoot booty that's right there internally, as well as the addition or subtraction rather of that midfoot bump being shaved down. I, again, didn't have a problem with the bump in version 1, but in version 2 with it flattened out like that, you really notice that difference, and that is certainly an enhancement to the feel and I think to the fit in that area, because you feel like you can get that foot cradled better by way of the laces, by way of the upper, as opposed to having something kind of counteracting the force from the bottom and having to futz with it a little bit. The forefoot, which in version 1 was definitely a highlight for me, remains so in this version. I actually feel like there's a little more width in this version. For me, the upper isn't quite as stretchy in that area as it was in version 1. Not a big deal, still feels very comfortable, plenty of room for wiggle and splay. However, as with probably 98% of shoes out there, I would love to see a couple millimeters more room on that lateral aspect of the forefoot there. It would make it a little more room for splay and things like that, but overall an excellent fit in version 2 of the Zante. Now the ride of version 1 of the Zante was certainly the thing that got me right out of the box. It was bouncy, it was playful, it gave you a lot, you could cruise on it, you could go fast on it. It was just really fantastic, and in this version it is still right there. Yes, it's got a tad like this much more firmness, but I really think that the shaving down of that midfoot bump makes this thing absolute perfection for me. Now, what it does for you as a runner should be interesting, and I think that from a durability aspect, you really have to be careful what you're getting into with any shoe, but especially something like this that's a lightweight shoe that's going to make you want to go out and run harder. Just beware, as I mentioned before, that if you're a pretty efficient runner, you're probably going to get around 350 to 400, maybe 500 miles out of this. It really depends on the person and how much abrasion, how much sliding into the ground you're doing, whether you're sliding in on the forefoot, sliding in on the heel heel. The point of that is that just make sure you're not overstriding. It shouldn't be a big deal. But in any event, that's going to really determine the way that you wear through the shoe. And the ride is really going to make you want to go, so it might enhance that in certain cases. So you know that thing where you see a movie and you're like, oh, this movie's awesome, and then you see it a few years later after you've forgotten about it, you say, man, I love this movie, it's so awesome, and I saw all these new cool things. That is what this shoe was like to me. Getting back in the Zante was really just like being in a place where I'm very, very comfortable, and this shoe is really, really evolving. It's subtly evolving, not huge changes with it, but the changes they have made in this feel really good. I would like it to see to get back to at least its original weight. Having a weight gain in version 2 of such a popular shoe is a little crazy to me, especially with a shaved down midfoot bump. But again, I have to think that it might be a little bit of different upper material that adds that weight, as well as some denser midsole material. Regardless, still a fantastic shoe. And the final thing I'll mention about this is the price tag. Now, before I tell you the price, be sure to look down in the description of this video or on our website, because we're always shopping for better deals. And when you guys buy through the links that we put out there for you, it doesn't cost you any extra, but those retailers turn around and give us a little thank you present. So it really helps to support Gearist. This guy right here, one of our favorite shoes in version 1 last year, this guy comes in at $99. It is really, really difficult to look past not having this shoe for that price. Or if you're still shopping for version 1, definitely still click the links down below and check out version 1, as you can probably get it for a screaming deal right now if you can find it. Now, before we get to our question of the day, guys, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. That is a huge help to us. We are about to hit 1 million views. We're right around 950,000 views as of April 6, 2016. So please subscribe to our channel. Help support Gearist. Doesn't cost you anything, and it's just a button click away. As well as, don't forget to like and favorite this video. And now our question of the day for you guys is, with version 2 of the Zante out there now, if you tried version 1, what did you think of it? Let's hear your answer down in the comment section below. Guys, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today. If you've got any questions at all, either click the contact link at Gearist.com, email info@Gearist.com, or just leave a comment down in the comment section below of this video. We would love to hear from you. As always, follow us on all of our social media outlets, which you see right here on my right, your left. That's my personal Strava up there, the Gearist Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and as always, subscribe to our channel by clicking that YouTube button right down there in the bottom right-hand corner, your bottom left, my bottom right. Thank you guys again so much for spending a few minutes with us today, and we will see you next time.